arrangements for him to come down and see the town.
And where
Wait.
were you at the time?
Great Lake, Illinois, I was in a Navy base up at Great Lakes.
At where?
The Great Lakes Navy base.
Great Lakes Naval
When we lived in
Station.
a little town called Grays Lake.
Oh, okay, in Illinois, Great Lakes Naval.
Grace Lake,
Grace, like,
Grace, Grays.
oh, Grace,
Isn't that right, Don?
That's correct.
okay.
But he was getting out of the Navy, see, and we were
Yeah.
wanting a doctor, so
Well, that worked out beautifully for
Oh,
both of you.
yeah. we told him we would build a clinic if he'd come to Burlington.
Okay,
We built it and fixed him up on a lease purchase agreement, I think for 10 years. He paid it off in 2 or 3 years.
well, wonderful, wonderful. So had you grown up in Burlington?
I grew up near Lex. on a farm.
Near that big town of Lex. Big town of Lex, yeah, okay.
He was east of Lex.
You were on the stagecoach route.
I think at Stagecoach I went on southwest, and I think probably to Sedalia and maybe ultimately to Frankfurt, I'm not sure.
That makes sense.
Sedalia and where?
What?
And ultimately to Frankfurt, I think.
Frankfurt. Oh, it also went down to
And
Frankfurt.
just actually, you can see today the ridge where
Really?
where it was, yeah.
That before the town, that before the county was surveyed on a grid,
Uh-huh.
Well,
and the roads were laid out straight.
well, interesting.
Yeah.
Learn something.
And
every-
down there, as swampy as that area was, they had to follow the high spot.
Well,
You can see the ridges all through the area.
interesting.
And
That would be an
on the
interesting
ridge
thing.
high there, they call that Rattlesnake 40 down there. I don't know if it's fiction or fact, but that's what they said.
You called it what?
They call it Rattlesnake 40, the swampier is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fiction or fact, but that's what we always thought.
No, my dad told me that it was full of rattlesnakes through Middle Fork, all out in there.
They were all over the area, all over the county.
Yeah.
Rattlesnakes.
Now, we didn't have much up here, I don't think, but the way my dad talked. But south, Middle Fork and west is where they had the most rattlesnakes.
What do they do to them?
Yeah.
Have they gotten rid of them? Is it still, pardon?
You look on the 1863 map of Jefferson Township, there's a little spot on the Ellis Farms, the 300 rattlesnakes killed here in one day.
Oh, wow.
300 in one day.
Yeah.
And that's on the 1863 map of what?
Jefferson Township,
Jefferson Township.
yeah.
I'm glad they killed them all.
Well, they didn't kill them all, just
They didn't have Monday night football in those days.
I'm not sure.
They didn't have Monday night football or anything else in those days. Went out and killed snakes.
Went out and killed rattlesnakes. Thank you.
That's for sure.
I had a blind uncle that lived just west of the bridge on 22,
Used to live at Lex.
and his wife called one day, said, "There's a snake out here in the south yard. We should come up and do something with it." Like I say, he was blind, so he couldn't do anything. So I went up, rode my bicycle down to Granddad's house and took his car and drove on up there with my rifle. And the snake was coiled up. It was a rattlesnake. That's the only rattlesnake I ever saw in this area. But I put him out of his misery pretty quick.
Do we have a rattlesnake problem today?
No.
I'm not gonna go hunting for
No,
them. Why bother?
No, I've been through all the woods, everything around here. That's the only rattlesnake I ever saw in the area.
Well, okay, now, we've kind of left your family behind. You grew up and, did you go away to school or did you start working when you graduated from high school here?
I graduated high school at 17, and like I said, with the help of my granddad, I got on a construction gang in Kokomo as a full-fledged carpenter.
Okay, in
Started
Kokomo.
at 80 cents an hour.
Well, 80 cents an hour. Wow, that sounds good.
Well, that's for 1 week, and then 2 weeks at 90 cents an hour. Full scale was $1.
Oh my.
But then I got on the finish gang, so I was making $1.20.
Wow.
That was big money for a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, it was.
And working inside.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we worked a 50-hour week. We worked 5 9-hour days and 5 hours on Saturday, made 50 hours.
Oh wow.
So that was $60 a week I was making. No such thing as overtime back then.
No,
But I was making $60 a week, and that was
that was good pay.
big money for a 17-year-old kid.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
How much taxes?
Huh?
How much tax they took out?
I don't remember, Don. It didn't amount to too much.
Then where did you meet your wife? Your first wife, Phyllis, was that her name?
Yeah.
Yes, uh-huh. Where did you meet Phyllis?
Well, I didn't go to church one day, and my cousin John.
You say you didn't go to church
didn't
one
go.
Sunday, okay?
My cousin John came over, got me out of bed. He said they were at church and they had a girl there that they wanted me to meet.
Oh,
It was a relation to John's wife,
oh,
and that was Phyllis.
well,
So I hurried up and got some clothes on and rushed over to church, and I met them. Then I went out to John's house for dinner. We got better acquainted, and I made a date with her.
well,
She lived at Summitville. That's 50 miles.
Summitsville. Is that how far it is?
That's halfway between Alexandria and
Mhm.
Fairmount.
And so, how were you able to court her? Did you have a car?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
What kind of car do you have?
My dad always told me I could have a car when I could afford to pay for it, and when I could buy
Dads were like that back then,
when
weren't
I could buy my own license plates and pay for the insurance
they? And the gas.
and the gasoline. So I saved my money. I say I was carpentering. I saved my money and I bought a new 1950 Studebaker.
Really? It was new, 1950s?
In 1950.
All right.
About 4 of us boys took that new car and took it to Monticello. It was called an Ideal Beach back then.
Mhm.
And on our way home, I had the radio on. That was June the 25th, 1950. Had the radio on, and they told about the North Koreans
Yep.
Oh,
had invaded South Korea.
well, mm-hmm,
And I thought, oh thunder, I'm going to be drafted.
yes,
And sure enough, I was.
well,
Next February.
well. So you served in Korea,
Yes.
in the army,
Yes.
and what did you do?
Well, I was first sergeant of headquarters company,
Okay,
101st Signal Battalion.
and how long were you in Korea?
15 months.
15 months. Wow. Any recollections of that experience?
Oh, yes. I can remember that much better than I can remember what I did yesterday.
Well, I'm sure you could. Yeah, yeah. What in particular? Let's see, you were 20 yet then, or
I
were
was
you
21.
21? Okay. And what kind of experiences? You were not in combat then.
No, no. I wasn't in combat. Like I say, I was first sergeant of headquarters
Yes.
company at 101st Signal
So you
Battalion.
were on a post.
Yeah. I had a nice experience. I had about 165 men in my company, but they were wonderful fellows, all of them.
Well,
We got along really well. They liked me and I liked them.
good. Good workers, I expect, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, good men.
They had a job to do, and as long as they did their job, I didn't bother them, you know. But
Well,
once in a while, we'd get a young one in that It was kind of interesting. I was getting about ready to come home. This young fella came in and reported to me, and he said, "Sergeant, I want to talk to you." And I thought, boy, I'm in for it. He said, "You know, I've had my butt chewed a lot, but I've never had it chewed the way you did it."
How did you do it?
I don't know. He said, "You've made a man out of me, and I appreciate it. I want to thank you."
Well, then you were not a harsh sergeant.
No.
But you respected them evidently and gave them credit where credit was due and
Right.
let them do their job.
I can't imagine how I chewed him any differently than anybody else would have, but he thought I had. He wanted to thank me. He said, "You've made a man out of me, and I appreciate it."
Wonderful,
That
wonderful.
made my day.
It did, it would, yes, that's something good to remember, yes,
Took
wonderful,
a lot of guts on his part to come in and do that.
yeah. Did you lose any friends in combat or?
We only lost one man in our company.
Mhm,
But like I say, we weren't in combat.
mhm.
We were in combat area. We got $20 a month combat pay.
Oh, really, because you were in the area?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't have to hold a gun and,
Well, we
you
carried.
had to carry a gun?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Came Christmas. A couple of us went out looking for a Christmas tree. We could fix in the tent, you know.
Yes.
So we climbed up the side of this mountain. I laughed. I said, "Well, this is the first time I ever went Christmas tree shopping with a rifle over my shoulder."
Oh. And did you find any trees that looked
Oh, yeah.
like what you would have had at
Yeah,
home?
we found a nice little tree.
Oh, good. And how did you decorate it? Did you have
Aluminum-
lights of any kind?
No.
What do you do?
Aluminum foil, anything like that. we
Foil?
could find.
Yeah.
We
Probably
had,
from your cigarette packs.
had it fixed real nice. It was cute.
Well, good. Well, good. And then when you came back from Korea, did you go back into construction right away?
No, I went back into self-employed
Oh.
electrician.
A self-employed electrician when you came back?
Oh, I was going to tell you, while I was in Japan, Korea,
Mhm.
I got to go to Japan twice for R&R. That's rest,
Oh, uh-huh.
rest and recuperation.
Yes.
So I got to see a good part of Japan.
Well, good.
I see a Japanese doctor in Kokomo now for acupuncture once in a while. She was born in Yokohama, Japan.
Oh, really?
She likes me because I can speak to her in Japanese.
Oh, really?
Really?
You went that much that you learned a little Japanese?
She said most Americans can't speak Japanese, and those that do, their pronunciation is poor. But she said yours is very good.
Really? Well, you learned it directly from the Japanese there, didn't you?
I learned it from my little houseboy.
Oh, really?
I had
Yes.
a little houseboy
Yes.
who was probably 15 years old.
Yes.
He could read, write, and speak in Korean, Japanese, and English.
And English.
Wow.
Well, that's like having a resident teacher. Yeah.
He was still writing his dictionary in English.
Really?
If he'd hear a word that he didn't know, he'd come to me and ask what it was.
Well,
I'd explain it to him. He'd write in his
and
little
that's how he
dictionary.
learned English. Interesting. Yeah. Wonderful.
Those kids were
Yeah.
so active. They wanted to learn.
Yes. When we were on Guam, they encouraged us to hire Palauan houseboys who they had no high schools in the Palauan Islands, so they brought them to Guam to get their high school education, and we hired them. And I remember he waxed my floors with his foot on the cut side of a coconut husk. When we were on Guam, my husband was often stationed out of Japan. He was a typhoon chaser while we were there. And he'd get back from Japan and I asked him, well, what'd you do in Japan? Spent a lot of time at Mayoshi's. And I asked him, what was Mayoshi's? And he, it's like a department store. Well, I learned later it was a bathhouse. So they always
Some
spent...
department.
I went shopping on the Ginza. You've heard
On
of
the
it.
Ginza, yes,
You've heard
oh
of
yes,
Ginza?
that big super flea
That's-
market.
That's Fifth Avenue in New York.
Yes.
I bought several things there and sent home.
Uh-huh, well, good. So you had some interesting experiences while in Korea.
Yes.
Did you go anywhere but Japan?